The sun hung low over the dunes, a bloated orange eye sinking into the horizon, painting the endless desert in molten gold and long, jagged shadows. Dust devils spun like drunken dancers across the cracked earth, their whirling skirts kicking up ancient grit that stung exposed skin and coated everything in a fine, ochre powder. This wasn't just sand. It was the graveyard of forgotten wars, littered with the skeletal remains of war machines, twisted metal husks of tanks and hovercraft half-buried like the bones of colossal beasts, their scorched surfaces pitted by plasma fire and time. The air shimmered with residual heat, carrying the faint, acrid tang of ozone and something metallic, like old blood baking under the relentless twin stars. Silence pressed down, thick and heavy, broken only by the mournful whistle of wind through shattered hulls and the occasional, distant crack of cooling metal. Then movement. A figure stumbled over a dune crest, silhouetted against the dying light. He was human, lean and worn, clad in patched, sand-colored fatigues that hung loosely on his frame. His face was smudged with grime, one cheek bearing a fresh, angry scrape, but his eyes, scanning the desolate expanse, held a startling clarity, a quiet watchfulness that seemed out of place amidst the ruin. His name was Silas. Not a warrior's name, perhaps, more the name of a scribe or a farmer. Yet here he was, alone in this forsaken place. He paused, catching his breath, his gaze drawn to a particularly large wreck, the mangled torso of a massive assault walker, its multiple legs snapped like twigs, its cannon arm buried deep in the sand. Something glinted within the dark cavity of its chest housing. Curiosity, a dangerous luxury in such a place, pricked at him. He approached cautiously, boots crunching on debris, hand instinctively resting on the worn grip of the pulse pistol holstered at his hip. As he peered into the shadowed interior, a low hum vibrated through the ground, growing rapidly louder, deeper, resonating in his chest. He whirled around, heart hammering against his ribs. From behind another dune, emerging like a phantom from the dust haze, came figures. They moved with an unnerving, fluid grace, utterly silent despite their size and the rough terrain. 3 of them, towering over Silas even at a distance. Humanoid, yes, but undeniably alien. Their skin was a deep, mesmerizing blue, like twilight sky seen through deep water, smooth and seemingly impervious to the abrasive sand. Flowing from their heads were manes of pure white hair, luminous in the fading light, cascading down broad shoulders or braided intricately with thin strands of what looked like polished obsidian. They wore form-fitting armor of a dull, gunmetal gray that seemed to absorb the light rather than reflect it, segmented for maximum mobility, adorned only with subtle geometric patterns etched near the joints that pulsed with a faint, internal cobalt glow. Their faces were strikingly beautiful yet severe, high cheekbones, sharp jawlines, and large, almond-shaped eyes the color of liquid silver, devoid of pupils, reflecting the world with an unnerving, emotionless precision. In their hands, they carried weapons that looked grown rather than forged. Sleek rifles with crystalline barrels that hummed with contained energy, and shorter sidearms resembling sculpted shards of ice. They fanned out, moving with predatory coordination, their silver eyes sweeping the battlefield, scanning the wreckage. Silas froze, pressing himself against the hot metal of the walker, trying to become part of the ruin. He saw them pause, their heads tilting slightly, as if listening to a signal only they could hear. One, slightly taller than the others, her white hair gathered in a single thick braid falling past her waist, raised a hand. Her companions halted instantly. She took a step forward, her movements deliberate, her gaze locking onto the spot where Silas hid. Panic flared, cold and sharp. Had they detected him? Was his hiding place compromised? He gripped his pistol tighter, knowing it was likely useless against their advanced gear. He braced for the searing beam of a plasma bolt. Then the impossible happened. Instead of raising her weapon, instead of signaling her companions to open fire, the tall blue woman walked directly towards him. Her steps were measured, unhurried, each one sinking slightly into the loose sand. The other 2 warriors remained perfectly still, their weapons lowered but ready, their silver eyes fixed on Silas, radiating suspicion. The leader stopped a few feet away. Silas couldn't move, couldn't breathe. He stared up into those alien, reflective eyes, seeing his own grimy, wide-eyed reflection staring back. He expected a command, a threat, perhaps a dispassionate scan. What he got was a smile. It started slowly, a subtle softening at the corners of her full lips, then blossomed into something breathtaking. It transformed her severe beauty, warming the cool blue of her skin, making the silver of her eyes seem almost alive, sparkling with an inner light. It was a genuine smile, radiant and unexpectedly warm, completely at odds with her warrior's stance and the desolation surrounding them. It reached deep into Silas, cutting through his fear, leaving him stunned, bewildered. Why? Why would this formidable alien warrior, clearly a commander, smile at him, a lone, insignificant human scavenger caught in the aftermath of a battle she might have participated in? His mind raced, trying to parse the meaning, finding none. Before he could react, before he could even manage a hesitant nod or a word, she turned slightly, addressing her companions, her voice clear, melodic, yet carrying an undeniable authority that cut through the desert silence. "This one," she declared, her gaze sweeping back to Silas, that incredible smile still playing on her lips. "This man belongs to me." The words, simple and direct, hung in the dusty air, heavier than any explosion. Silas felt the world tilt. "Belongs to me?" The phrase echoed in his skull, absurd and terrifying. He wasn't property. He was Silas Reed, a geologist who'd gotten lost during a routine survey when the orbital skirmish had erupted, forcing him down into this hellscape. He'd spent days evading patrols, scavenging for water purifiers from dead soldiers, avoiding the automated sentry guns still active in some zones. And now, this stunning blue goddess with the white hair and the devastating smile claimed ownership. The sheer audacity of it, delivered with such calm certainty, momentarily eclipsed the danger. A hysterical bubble of laughter threatened to escape his throat. Belongs to her? Like a stray dog? A piece of salvage? He managed to swallow it down, replacing it with a look of utter bewilderment. The other two warriors reacted instantly. The one on the left, whose white hair was cropped short and spiked defiantly, let out a low, guttural sound, a mix of disbelief and outrage. Her silver eyes narrowed, fixing on Silas with undisguised contempt. The third warrior, slightly broader, her hair woven into a complex net over her scalp, shifted her weight, her hand tightening on her rifle, though she didn't raise it. Her expression was unreadable, but the tension in her posture screamed caution. The leader, whom Silas silently dubbed Lyra for the musical quality of her voice, didn't flinch. She simply held Silas's gaze, her smile unwavering, a silent challenge hanging in the air between them. The message was clear: he is mine. Question it at your peril. The standoff stretched, thick with unspoken conflict. Sand trickled down the dune face. A piece of scorched plating groaned as it cooled. Silas felt sweat trickle down his temple, mingling with the grime. He was caught in the epicenter of an alien power struggle, valued not for himself, but as a symbol of someone else's claim. Lyra finally broke the tense silence, not by speaking to her subordinates, but by turning fully to Silas. She extended a hand. Her fingers were long, elegant, tipped with nails that seemed made of polished sapphire. Her palm was smooth, the blue skin flawless. "Come," she said, her voice softer now, directed solely at him, yet carrying easily. The command was gentle, but beneath it lay an iron will. Silas hesitated. Taking her hand meant surrendering, accepting her bizarre pronouncement. Refusing meant potentially provoking the wrath of 3 heavily armed aliens in the middle of a lethal desert. He glanced at the spiked-haired warrior, whose glare could have melted Durasteel, then at the net-haired one, whose knuckles were white on her rifle. Lyra's smile remained patient, expectant. It wasn't mocking. It was inviting, encouraging. In this context, it was utterly surreal. With a deep breath that tasted of dust and desperation, Silas reached out. His calloused, human hand, brown and scarred, looked crude and fragile as it slid into her cool, smooth one. The contact sent a jolt through him, not electric, but a strange resonance, a feeling of connection that defied logic. Her grip was firm, surprisingly strong, yet careful not to crush his fingers. She pulled him gently away from the walker wreckage, turning her back on her companions, effectively shielding him. "We must go," she stated, already leading him towards the dune they had descended. The spiked-haired warrior snarled, a harsh syllable in their melodic language that sounded like grinding stone. Lyra didn't turn, didn't acknowledge her. The net-haired warrior gave Silas one last, inscrutable look, then fell into step behind them, covering their rear. The spiked one followed reluctantly, muttering under her breath, her weapon held low but ready, her silver eyes burning holes into Silas's back. As they crested the dune, Silas risked a glance back. Below, the vast, ruined battlefield stretched under the deepening twilight, the twin stars beginning to pierce the indigo sky. He was leaving it, not as a survivor, but as the possession of a blue-skinned warrior queen, dragged into an unknown future by a handhold that felt simultaneously like salvation and a death sentence. The desert wind tugged at Lyra's white hair, making it stream like a banner behind her. The journey across the dunes was silent except for the crunch of sand underfoot and the sigh of the wind. Silas focused on the feel of Lyra's hand, cool and steady in his, a tangible anchor in this shifting reality. Her pace was swift and sure, navigating the treacherous slopes with effortless grace, while Silas scrambled after her, his human legs protesting the exertion. He stole glances at her profile, the strong line of her jaw, the sweep of her white hair, the faint pulse of light from the patterns on her armor near her neck. She radiated a calm authority, utterly confident in her path, in her claim. Behind them, the tension was palpable. The spiked-haired warrior, whom Silas mentally named Thorn for her attitude, kept up a constant, low-level grumble, punctuated by sharp clicks and whistles in their language that sounded distinctly uncomplimentary. The net-haired one, Saren for her apparent calmness, moved with silent efficiency, constantly scanning the horizon, her rifle held ready. Silas felt like a prize being transported, a sack of grain fought over by rival farmers. The absurdity of it warred with the very real danger. She smiled, he kept thinking. Why did she smile? And why claim me? Was it some alien custom? A ritual? Or was he simply the first human she'd seen? And belonging was how they categorized captives? The thought soured his stomach. He remembered stories of alien slavers, of humans used as labor or worse. But Lyra's touch, her smile, it didn't feel predatory. It felt protective. Possessive, yes, but in a way that shielded him from the hostility of her own kind. It was confusing, infuriating, and strangely compelling. They descended into a wide, shallow basin dotted with more wreckage, including the shattered dome of what might have been a command bunker. Lyra led them not towards shelter, but towards a specific cluster of collapsed girders forming a precarious arch. She released Silas's hand, much to his immediate sense of loss, and placed her palm flat against a section of rusted metal. A complex sequence of symbols, glowing the same cobalt blue as her armor patterns, flickered briefly on the surface before vanishing. With a groan of stressed metal, a section of the girder assembly slid aside, revealing a dark opening descending into the earth. A hidden entrance. Silas stared, impressed despite himself. Thorn shoved past him roughly, entering first, her weapon sweeping the darkness. Saren followed, motioning for Silas to enter. He hesitated, looking at Lyra. She nodded once, that small, reassuring smile touching her lips again. Safe, she said simply, trusting nothing but the fact that she hadn't killed him yet, and the alternative was staying outside with Thorn glaring. Silas ducked into the tunnel. It was narrow, cool, smelling of damp earth and ozone. Faint blue lights embedded in the walls activated as they passed, illuminating a descending ramp. After 50 meters, it opened into a surprisingly large chamber, clearly artificial. Smooth, seamless walls curved upwards, lit by the same soft blue glow. Holographic displays flickered along one wall, showing star maps and scrolling data streams in their alien script. Several pieces of advanced equipment hummed softly, life support units, communication arrays, a medical pod with a transparent canopy. It was a sophisticated underground outpost, hidden in plain sight within the battlefield ruins. Silas gaped. This wasn't just a warrior. This was a commander with resources. Thorn stalked to a console, slamming her fist down, triggering a burst of angry, rapid-fire speech directed at Lyra. Saren stood guard near the entrance, her posture relaxed but alert. Lyra ignored Thorn, walking to a recessed alcove. She retrieved a small, disc-shaped device and a canteen of clear liquid. She approached Silas, holding out the canteen. Water, she said. Purified. Gratitude washed over him, so intense it nearly buckled his knees. He took the canteen, the cool metal a shock against his dusty hands. The water inside was cold, impossibly clean, tasting faintly mineral but utterly refreshing. He drank deeply, the liquid soothing his parched throat, washing away some of the grit of fear and exhaustion. Thank you, he rasped, his voice rough. Lyra watched him, her silver eyes observing his relief. She activated the disc-shaped device. It unfolded into a flat scanner that emitted a soft blue light, which she passed slowly over his body, starting from his head down to his boots. It didn't hurt. It felt like a cool breeze. Injuries? She asked, her tone clinical now. Scrape, fatigue, dehydration. Silas listed, finishing the water. Nothing serious. The scanner confirmed it, displaying tiny glyphs above her palm. She deactivated it, a hint of approval in her expression. Good. Resilient. Thorn, overhearing, made a derisive scoffing sound. Resilient? He smells of fear and dust. Commander, why bring this vermin into our sanctuary? He is weak. A liability. Lyra turned, her smile vanishing, replaced by a chilling intensity. She stepped towards Thorn, who instinctively took a half-step back, though she tried to stand her ground. You question my judgment, Kalen? Lyra's voice was low, dangerously soft. You witnessed the Nexus pulse resonate only with him. You felt the harmonic shift when I touched him. This is not weakness, Kalen. This is significance. He is the key. He belongs with us. With me. That is not negotiable. The words Nexus pulse and key meant nothing to Silas, but the conviction in Lyra's voice, the way Thorn visibly flinched at the title commander, silenced the warrior. Kalen, Thorn, glared pure hatred at Silas, but she bowed her head stiffly, retreating to a console, muttering about human filth and distractions. Saren remained impassive, but Silas noticed a slight relaxation in her shoulders. The immediate threat of violence receded, replaced by a simmering resentment. Lyra turned back to Silas, the warmth returning to her eyes, the smile reappearing like sunshine breaking through storm clouds. Rest, she said, indicating a padded bench near the wall. We have much to discuss when you are recovered. The simplicity of the command, coupled with the lingering image of her smile and the terrifying power she wielded over her own fierce warriors, left Silas profoundly unsettled and inexplicably safe. He sat on the bench, the cool metal beneath him, the taste of clean water in his mouth, the echo of "he belongs to me" ringing in his ears. The desert battlefield was outside. Inside, he was the center of a mystery wrapped in blue skin and white hair, guarded by a smile that held the power to command armies and silence dissent. Sleep, when it came, was fitful and haunted by fragmented dreams. The scream of plasma cannons, the cold emptiness of space, the sensation of falling through infinite darkness, and always, the piercing silver eyes and the enigmatic smile of the blue woman. He woke with a start, disoriented, the soft blue light of the bunker his only reference. He wasn't alone. Lyra sat nearby on another bench, her back against the wall, her white hair spilling over her shoulder like liquid moonlight. She wasn't sleeping. Her silver eyes were open, watching him with an unnerving stillness, like a predator assessing its charge. Silas sat up slowly, every muscle protesting. How long? He croaked. 6 hours, 32 minutes, she replied, her voice a quiet murmur in the humming stillness. Your biological rhythms required rest. You are stronger than you appear, Silas Reed. He blinked. You know my name? Your identification chip, she explained, tapping her temple. Standard human military issue, even for non-combatants. Scanned when you slept. He touched his neck, remembering the tiny implant. Privacy was clearly a human concept lost on her. So Lyra, he ventured, using the name he'd given her, testing it. She inclined her head slightly. You may use it. Few have that privilege. Another point of unexpected intimacy. Why? Silas asked, the question bursting out. Why claim me? Why belong? What is this key thing? What does any of this mean? He gestured around the high-tech bunker. I'm just a geologist. I study rocks. I got caught in the crossfire. I want to go home. Lyra pushed herself off the wall and stood, walking to a central console. She tapped a sequence, and a holographic projection shimmered into existence above it. It showed a complex, multi-layered structure resembling a gyroscope made of light, spinning slowly. Intricate energy pathways pulsed within it. This, Lyra said, her voice taking on a lecturing tone, is the schematic of a Nexus relay, ancient technology predating both our species, scattered across the galaxy. They regulate subspace frequencies, stabilize wormholes, maintain the fabric of dimensional travel. They are vital. This one, she zoomed the image to show a specific location deep within the desert, marked by a pulsing red, is damaged. Severely. Its core resonance is failing. Unstable. She changed the image. It showed chaotic energy waves, jagged and destructive, emanating from the relay site. If it collapses completely, the resulting subspace rupture will not only obliterate this entire region, vaporizing everything within 1,000 kilometers, but it will create a cascade failure. Other relays across the sector will destabilize, collapsing one after another. Interstellar travel becomes impossible. Entire systems cut off. Wars will erupt over dwindling resources. Billions will suffer. The scale of the disaster was staggering. Silas felt cold. But what can I do? I fix rock samples, not cosmic machinery. Lyra turned to him, stepping closer. The hologram cast shifting blue light on her face. The Nexus relays. They are not merely machines. They are semi-sentient. They require a specific bioresonant signature to interface, to initiate repair protocols. A signature attuned to their core frequency. For centuries, my people, the Zenari, have served as their guardians, using specially trained individuals whose biology naturally harmonizes with the Nexus. We found such an individual. Her expression darkened, a shadow passing over her features. Kalen's sister. She was our key. She entered the primary access chamber to begin the stabilization sequence. The damage, it was worse than projected. A feedback surge killed her instantly. The system rejected her, overloaded. Silas saw genuine grief in Lyra's eyes, quickly masked by steely resolve. Kalen blames the Nexus, blames the mission, blames anyone associated with it, including me, for sending her sister. The pieces clicked. Kalen's venom wasn't just about him. It was grief twisted into rage. Without a key, Lyra continued, the relay fails. My people have no other candidate ready. Time is measured in days, perhaps hours. Then, she gestured to the image of the catastrophic rupture. And then you appeared, on the battlefield, near the relay's outer perimeter. My personal scanner, designed to detect bioresonance anomalies. It went wild when I scanned you. Not just detected, resonated. A harmonic match unlike anything recorded. The Nexus pulse itself reacted when I touched you. A faint, localized stabilization wave rippled outwards from the site. She looked directly at him, her silver eyes intense. Your biology, Silas Reed, is uniquely compatible with the damaged Nexus relay. You are the key, the only one who can save this sector. You belong to this task, to the effort, to me as its commander, because I am the only one who can guide you, protect you, and ensure you succeed where my predecessor failed. Your survival, your cooperation is paramount. Not just for you, but for countless lives. The weight of her words crashed down on Silas. He wasn't property. He was a tool, a crucial, irreplaceable component in a desperate machine. The smile, the claim, the protection, it wasn't affection. It was necessity. He was a walking, talking solution to an extinction-level problem. The humor of the situation died, replaced by a crushing sense of dread. He was a geologist, not a savior. He looked at Lyra, at the fierce determination in her alien face, and knew there was no choice. The desert outside was deadly, but the responsibility she placed upon him was infinitely heavier. He took a shaky breath. Okay, he whispered, the word tasting like ash. Okay, tell me what I need to do. Lyra's smile returned, smaller this time, but filled with a profound relief and renewed purpose. It wasn't the smile of ownership anymore. It was the smile of hope reignited. The days that followed blurred into a relentless cycle of preparation, tension, and the slow, unexpected thawing of an impossible connection. The underground bunker, once a place of alien mystery and hostility, became a crucible. Silas was no longer just a captive or a tool. He was the focal point of a desperate mission, and Lyra was his unwavering guardian. She spent hours with him, using the holographic displays to explain the Nexus relay's complex systems in simplified terms. Her voice patient despite the urgency. She taught him basic Zenari hand signals for communication in the field, drilled him on emergency procedures if the relay's energy spiked dangerously, and monitored his vital signs constantly with her scanner, her touch, cool fingers briefly resting on his wrist or temple, becoming a strangely comforting ritual. He learned she wasn't just a commander. She was burdened by the weight of command, the loss of Kalen's sister, and the survival of countless lives resting on her shoulders and now, on his untrained hands. Her strength was immense, but beneath the blue skin and silver eyes, Silas began to glimpse flickers of vulnerability, moments when the fierce warrior softened, especially when she thought he wasn't looking. Kaelin remained a constant, simmering presence. Her initial fury had subsided into a cold, watchful resentment. She performed her duties flawlessly, maintaining the equipment, scouting the perimeter, analyzing sensor data, but her disdain for Silas was palpable. She'd grunt instructions, avoid his gaze, and once, when Silas stumbled during a simulation drill, she muttered, "Clumsy meat sack. One wrong move near the core, and we're all dust." Lyra would intervene instantly, her voice sharp, reminding Kaelin of protocol and the stakes, her protective stance over Silas clear. Saren, the quiet one, observed everything with calm detachment, offering silent support only through small actions, ensuring Silas's ration pack had extra protein, adjusting a console so he could see it better. The dynamic was fragile, balanced on the knife edge of necessity. One evening, after another grueling session where Silas struggled to visualize the intricate energy pathways he needed to manipulate, frustration overwhelmed him. He slammed his fist on the console, a rare outburst. "I can't do this," he exploded, the sound echoing in the chamber. "It's too much. I'm not some chosen one. I study sedimentary layers, Lyra. I identify mineral deposits. This is magic or science fiction. People like me don't save galaxies. We get lost in caves." He slumped onto the bench, burying his face in his hands, the enormity of his task crashing down, mixed with exhaustion and fear. The silence that followed was thick. He expected reprimand, dismissal, perhaps Kaelin's triumphant sneer. Instead, he felt a gentle pressure on his shoulder. He looked up. Lyra stood beside him, not as commander, but simply as Lyra. Her silver eyes held none of their usual commanding intensity, only a deep, understanding sadness and concern. Without a word, she sat down next to him, closer than protocol usually allowed. The faint scent of ozone and something uniquely her, like cold starlight and desert herbs, filled the space between them. She didn't offer platitudes. Instead, she spoke softly, her voice low and melodic. "When my people first discovered the Nexus relays," she began, "we believed they were gifts from the gods. We sent our wisest, our strongest, to commune with them. Many failed. Some died, consumed by the raw power. My mentor, Vera, she was the greatest key we had known. She stabilized 3 failing relays. When she approached the 4th, the resonance was wrong. The feedback, it turned her to ash before my eyes. A single luminous tear, like liquid cobalt, welled in her silver eye and traced a path down her blue cheek." Silas stared, stunned. This warrior, this pillar of strength, was sharing her deepest wound. "I carried that failure for years," she whispered, her gaze distant. "The weight of lives lost because I couldn't find a way, because I wasn't strong enough, wise enough. I know the fear, Silas, the crushing doubt, the feeling of being utterly inadequate against forces beyond comprehension." She turned her head, meeting his eyes directly. "But Vera taught me something in her final moments. True strength isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite it. It's finding the courage not because you feel invincible, but because the alternative, doing nothing or is unthinkable. You feel inadequate? Good. That means you understand the gravity. But you are here. The Nexus resonated with you. Not me. Not Kaelin. You. That is not random. That is purpose. And I." She hesitated, a flicker of something vulnerable crossing her features. "I believe in that purpose. In you. Even when you doubt yourself." She reached out, not with the scanner, but with her hand, gently wiping the tear from her own cheek with the back of her fingers. The simple act of vulnerability, the shared burden of grief and responsibility, broke something open in Silas. His own fear didn't vanish, but it was joined by a fierce, burning determination, fanned by her trust. He covered her cool hand with his own, the human warmth meeting alien coolness. No words were needed. The connection, forged in desperation, deepened in that moment of shared sorrow and unwavering belief. Kaelin, observing from across the room, looked away sharply, but Saren gave a barely perceptible nod. The day of the attempt arrived, heavy with dread and anticipation. They suited up. Silas wore a lightweight Zanari environmental suit, modified to interface with the relay's control systems, its gray material feeling strange against his skin. Lyra, resplendent in her full battle armor, the cobalt patterns glowing brightly, looked every inch the warrior queen. Kaelin and Saren were similarly armored, weapons at the ready. The journey to the primary access chamber, buried deep within a canyon scarred by ancient battles, was tense. Automated defense turrets, still active, fired sporadic plasma bursts. Lyra led with flawless precision, her movements a dance of evasion and suppression, directing Kalen and Saren with silent hand signals. Silas stayed close behind her, heart pounding, relying entirely on her protection. When a hidden sentry pod emerged from the rock face, unleashing a barrage directly at Silas, it was Lyra who moved like lightning. She shoved him aside with surprising force, taking the brunt of the energy bolts on her armored shoulder. The impact threw her off balance, sparks flying from her armor, a cry escaping her lips, a sound of pain and anger, not fear. "Silas, move, now!" she roared, already rolling to her feet, her rifle spitting precise blue bolts that disintegrated the pod. The sight of her, wounded protecting him, ignited a fire in Silas's chest hotter than any plasma. He scrambled forward, driven by a surge of protectiveness mirroring her own. They reached the massive, scorched blast door of the access chamber. Lyra input the codes, her movements slightly stiff from the hit, blood a deep indigo fluid seeping from a crack in her shoulder plate. The door groaned open, revealing a cavernous space dominated by the pulsating, fractured core of the Nexus relay. Jagged cracks of unstable energy snaked across its surface, emitting a low, threatening hum that vibrated in Silas's bones. The air crackled with raw power. "Remember the sequence," Lyra said, her voice tight but controlled, positioning herself at a secondary control station. "Focus on the primary harmonic node. Visualize the stabilization wave flowing through you, not from you. Be the conduit, not the source. We will shield you from feedback as much as possible." Kalen took position at a defensive emplacement, her expression grim, scanning the chamber for threats. Saren manned another console, ready to assist Lyra. Silas took a deep breath, stepping onto the central dais marked with glowing symbols. The moment his boots touched the platform, the entire chamber reacted. The chaotic energy pulses intensified, lashing out like angry whips. Warning glyphs flashed crimson on the consoles. Silas closed his eyes, trying to recall Lyra's lessons, trying to find the comm center amidst the storm. He focused on the image of the stable gyroscope, on the feeling of Lyra's hand in his, on her voice telling him she believed in him. He reached out with his mind, not to command, but to connect, to resonate. It was agony. It was ecstasy. Raw, untamed energy surged into him, a torrent threatening to tear him apart. He screamed, a raw sound lost in the roar of the failing machine. Lights flared behind his eyelids. He felt his body strain, muscles locking, nerves screaming. On the console, Lyra saw the energy levels spiking towards catastrophic overload. "Feedback building," Saren yelled. "Shields at 60%. Kalen watched, her knuckles white on her weapon, a flicker of something akin to horrified fascination on her face. Lyra didn't hesitate. Ignoring the pain in her shoulder, she slammed her palm onto an override panel. Blue energy arced from her armor, flowing into the chamber's shielding matrix, reinforcing it around Silas. "Hold the line," she commanded, her voice strained with effort. "Saren, divert auxiliary power to the dampeners. Focus on Silas." She poured her own energy, her own life force, into strengthening the barrier protecting him. Silas felt it, a sudden, powerful surge of cool strength wrapping around him, like an invisible embrace, stabilizing the chaotic flood. Through the blinding pain and the roar of energy, he sensed her. Her presence, her determination, her unwavering focus on him. It wasn't just technology. It was her. Her belief, her sacrifice, her care. It became an anchor. He stopped fighting the energy. He stopped trying to control it. He let it flow through him, guided by the image in his mind, amplified by the protective field emanating from Lyra. He visualized the cracked ceiling, the chaotic waves smoothing into harmonious ripples, the gyroscope spinning true. He poured every ounce of his will, his fear, his gratitude, his burgeoning, impossible love for the woman who smiled at him in the desert and now bled for him in this chamber, into that single, desperate thought. Stabilize. Heal. Survive. On the main console, the chaotic red warnings flickered. The jagged energy lines across the core display began to pulse less violently. The threatening hum lowered in pitch, shifting from a scream to a deep, resonant thrum. The cracks in the holographic model started to glow with a steady, healthy blue light, slowly knitting together. Saren gasped. Resonance shift. Positive harmonic feedback. Stabilization sequence initiating. Lyra, drained, leaning heavily on the console, her armor cracked and smoking slightly, lifted her head. Her silver eyes, dimmed with exertion, fixed on Silas. He was still standing on the dais, bathed in the now gentle blue light of the Nexus core. His face etched with pain but also a look of profound concentration and dawning triumph. The energy flowing through him was no longer destructive. It was healing, flowing out from him into the damaged structure. The chamber lights brightened to a steady, safe blue. The oppressive hum faded into a peaceful, contented hum. The immediate threat of collapse was receding. They had done it. Silas had done it. Lyra pushed herself upright, ignoring the agony in her shoulder. She walked towards the dais, her steps slow but deliberate. Silas opened his eyes, swaying slightly, the immense energy receding. He looked at her, exhausted, overwhelmed, tears cutting tracks through the grime on his face. Lyra reached the dais. She didn't speak. She simply stepped up, closing the distance. Then, slowly, reverently, she cupped his face in her cool hands, her thumbs brushing away his tears. The touch sent shivers through him, erasing the last remnants of pain. She leaned forward and pressed her forehead gently against his, a Zanari gesture of profound connection, of shared spirit. Her breath was warm against his skin. "You did it?" she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. A sound he'd never heard from her before, pure, unadulterated relief and pride. "My key, my brave, brilliant Silas." She pulled back slightly, searching his eyes. The smile returned, softer, deeper, infinitely more personal than any before. It wasn't the smile of ownership, nor just of relief. It was the smile of wonder, of discovery, of a heart recognizing another across an impossible divide. "You belong," she murmured, the words now carrying a meaning far richer than duty or possession. "Right here." And in that moment, surrounded by humming machinery and the quiet aftermath of salvation, with the warrior woman's forehead still touching his and her silver eyes holding his soul, Silas Reed, the geologist who studied rocks, knew he was home. The desert battlefield was forgotten. The future was uncertain, fraught with dangers and the lingering shadow of Kalen's resentment, the vast responsibilities of the Nexus network, the chasm between their worlds. But here, in the blue light, with her touch and her smile, a new story, fragile and extraordinary, had truly begun. The Nexus hummed steadily, its light a calm blue pulse in the chamber. Silas leaned into Lyra's touch, the exhaustion a deep ache, but beneath it, a warmth spread not just from the stabilized energy, but from the woman before him. Kalen watched from her post, the hatred in her silver eyes now fractured by disbelief and something else, reluctant awe. Saren allowed herself a small, genuine smile. The immediate danger had passed, the sector saved. But as Lyra's forehead rested against his, her whispered words echoing right here, Silas knew the greater journey was just beginning. The desert outside still stretched, vast and unknown. But within the quiet hum of the ancient machine, guarded by a warrior's smile and a love forged in fire, he finally belonged.